Guys, welcome back to Lessons Trade. Today on the channel, I'll be learning how to make a drawstring skirt. I have two yards of this fabric. I have my other tools for this project. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to fold our fabric into two. Okay, now I'm using the fabric that has lots and lots of colors. All right, so I'll ensure you please concentrate on this so you can see the lines I'm making, and I'm going to try as much as possible to give you vivid explanations. So I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two. I'll be cutting the front first and use that as a template to cut my back. All right, so I just went ahead to mark the starting point for my skirt, and I'm marking out the full length of my skirt right now. So I want my skirt to be 30 inches in length. Now remember, this is a drawstring skirt. You're going to adjust it so you can decide to make it as long as you want. You can decide to make it as short as you want, whatever works for you. But I went ahead to mark 31 inches because I'll be hemming this at the end of this. Okay, so that when I want to wear my skirt without using the rope, so that's without drawing it up, it will be at 30 inches in length. And when I want to adjust it, it's also going to serve me well. All right, so I went ahead to pin this down all over so that my fabric will not be moving about. So right now I'll go ahead and put in my other measurement, which is my hip point is 8 inches. So like I said earlier, this fabric is actually multicolored. So it has lots of colored. While working on this project, I actually had to swap chalks. Okay, so I was using a blue chalk here, and I noticed after doing this, it wasn't as visible as I thought it was. All right, but I'm going to give you a vivid explanation how to do this. All right, so I'm gonna head to mark my hip point, which is 8 inches. So now I want to put in my horizontal measurement. So I marked out my waist. Now my round waist is 30 inches divided by 4. I have 7.5. I went ahead to mark that down. But then I'm adding 1 inch extra for this because you need your seam allowance. That's your sewing allowance. For the hip point, I went ahead to do the same thing. I divided my hip round hip by 40. I got 10. I marked that down. That's 10 inches, and then I'm adding 1 inches to that. Okay, so for the knee area, this is not a pencil skirt, so you don't need to make any, you don't need to remove anything at all. You just have to use the same measurement for the waist at the knee, so that when you add when you want to draw this up, it's going to adjust properly. All right, because if you reduce the knee area, like you make the knee area a pencil area, adjusting this up will be not, it will have no effect whatsoever. So I went ahead to mark that down. That means I used 11 inches also for the hem of my skirt. So it means I used 8.5 at the top, 11 inches for my hip, and 11 inches for the hem point. I hope you got that correctly. All right, so I'm just making a connection. I'm connecting my lines together right now so that I can have this in a straight form. So it simply means from the hip position straight, you should have the same measurements. Even if you're using a full length of 40, 50, whatever full length you're using, from the hip point, you need it to be free from that end. All right, it is not a pencil sketch, so it needs to be free. So I'll just go ahead and cut this out. I've already made my marks. All right, so I hope you got the explanation I was trying to make. Okay, I'll still go over this one more time. All right, so I just marked exactly the marks I have on my hip for my full length. Now my hip is 40. I divided that by 4. I got 10. I added 1 inch for seam allowance. That's 11. So I marked 11 at the full length. All right, I hope we got that right. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to cut out my back piece. I'm just going to fold in another fabric in order to cut this out. Okay, my fabric is 2 yards. I didn't exhaust this at the end of the day because my skirt wasn't that long. Okay, I didn't want it to be too long. But if you want yours to be long, two yards, 2 meters of fabric will work effectively for you. All right. So I just went ahead to fold in another piece for the back. Now I'm placing my front piece on top. Okay. So the difference between the back and the front is that the back part of this will have a zipper. You need access to wearing the skirts. Okay, so you need to make space for your zipper. So I'll go ahead and mark that down. At the waist area, I marked 1.5 inches for my zip allowance. All right, going ahead to mark that down, 1.5 inches at the waist area. Then at the hip area, I marked 2 inches. Now for this, at the bottom, I will not be covering it in like I said for the other for the front part. So I'll be using the same 2 inches I have for the hip points. That's for my zip allowance. I'll be using it for the full length. All right. So this is simply because you want the skirt to be um the when you draw it up, you want it to adjust easily. You don't want to have issues while adjusting this. All right. So I hope we got that right. So ensure you do the same thing for your zip allowance. If you're using 2 inches for your hip area, ensure you use 2 inches throughout to the full length of your skirt. If you're using 1.5 inches, ensure you use 1.5 inches to the full length of your skirt. So I'm just going to cut this out right now. Okay, so I hope you got what I'm saying. All right, I'm giving a vivid explanation because the chalk I worked with wasn't really visible on this fabric because of the colors I have on it. All right, so this is what it looks like. This is my back piece. Okay, so the back part of this will be having a dart. All right, so I'm just going to measure out my dart. Now, the dart measurement is the way to get that measurement is to measure the bust span meaning from one nipple point to the other. You want to be wearing a bra while measuring this out. So mine is 7 inches, but I usually add half an inch for stitching allowance. So I went ahead to mark than 4 inches instead. So if yours is 4 inch, you divide sorry, if yours is 8, you divide by 2, you have 4 inches. You add 0.5 to that, you have 4.5 inches. So I've marked that down. Now, like I said, that will just be for the back, okay? So I'll work on the back piece first. I'm going to open this up so that we'll see what it looks like. All right, so I'll go back to the machine and then put in my dart and then close my zip allowance area, leaving about 6 to 7 inches for my zip positioning. All right, so I've done that. This is what I have. This is what it looks like. Okay, this skirt is actually quite easy to make. Okay, and it's very beautiful at the end of the day by the time you finish making this. So I'll just keep my back piece aside and work on the front piece. Now the front piece is going to have a casing for my ropes where my rope is going to pass. Okay, so if we're using an elastic, would have said an elastic casing, but we're not using an elastic, so this will simply be our rope casing. So to get our casing position, what I'll do is this is folded into two like it was earlier. Okay, while I was cutting this out, I took quarter of my waist measurement. All right, so my round waist is 30. I divided that by 4. I have 7.5 and I divided my 7.5 again by 2. I hope you understand that. Okay, so I just used quarter of that to get that half of my 7.5. I'm using that to get my elastic casing. All right, so the easy way for you to get this is just to fold back your fabric into two. All right, after folding your fabric into two, you take the measurement of the waist. Remember, mine was half of that is 8.5 because I added 1 inch of allowance. So I just took that measurement there, got the midpoint of it, and I'm marking it down. I'm using the same marks from the beginning of this, like from the starting point of my skirt to the hem of my skirt line. Okay. So I'm just marking this down throughout to the full length of my skirt. Okay, you want to ensure you mark this out properly. I'm really sorry about my chalk. Okay, it wasn't really visible, right? I tried different chalks and it didn't work. Okay, I thought the blue was effective, but I guess not. So my apologies on that. So I just marked it. Okay, marked it down. That was just the line there. All right, we want to ensure you have a straight line there. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out what I will use for my elastic casing. It measures about 3 inches in width, and the length of this is the exact length I have for my skirt. Now remember I cut out 31 inches in length. I said I wanted my skirt to be 30 inches, but I marked 31 because of my hemming allowance. So I cut this out. That's my elastic casing. Okay, I cut this out with 31 inches. So what we want to do is to place that casing on this point, okay, on the line we drew for our elastic casing. So I'm going to place this like this, okay, back part of it facing the back part, all right. So you want to ensure you get the midpoint of your elastic casing so that at the end of the day, one part of this is not bigger than the other, right? So I went ahead to fold this into two so I can get my midpoint, all right? You want to fold it into two, like after getting your elastic case. If you decide to use something bigger, say 4 inches, you just get the midpoint of that, and then after getting that, you make a notch at your midpoint, pin it down, all right? So I just went ahead, got my midpoint of my casing, made a notch at that end, and then I pinned it down. Okay, I'll suggest you pin this down throughout the entire fabric. All right, like make your pins throughout the entire fabric before stitching down so it doesn't move about. All right, so I've gone ahead to stitch mine down. I folded the edge of both of my fabric. All right, you can see the front. Because I'm using a fabric that's multicolored, you're not going to see any form of thread in front. All right, so I've gone ahead to do this, like fold my casing, the edges inside. So the next thing I want to do is to get the midpoint of the casing. This is because at the end of the day, you want both parts of your not elastic casing, sorry, you want both parts of your rope casing in this case to be equal. They should both be equal. Okay, at the end of the day, you want them to both be equal. So you just need to make straight lines down. I took my measurement of that. Okay, took the measurement from one end to the other. I got the midpoint, and then I'm just simply marking this down in a straight line. So go ahead and do the same thing for your own. Okay, you want your lines to be straight because you're going to be sewing on that line later on. Okay, like I said, you need both parts of this to be equal. Okay, so I'll go ahead and then stitch down this now to get two parts of my rope casing. All right, so I've gone ahead to do that. You can see, all right, okay, it's not very visible, okay, but this is the back part of it. You can see we have this too. So the next one to work on is our ropes, okay, for this. So I went ahead to cut out, actually I cut out 4 pieces of this, okay, but at the end of the day, I didn't use all of them because I noticed this was quite long. So the width of my elastic casing is for 1.5 inch, and the length I cut out earlier was 60 inches, sorry. You want to get something longer than your skirt. If your skirt is 30 inches, example like mine, all right, you want to add a little to that. Say add 11 inches, 15 inches to that length so that your elastic will not disappear into the skirt when you are not having this runched up. Okay, so I've gone ahead to fold my ropes. Okay, keep saying elastic. Okay, they were quite long, so I had to cut them off at some point. Okay, so what we want to do now is to pass our rope through the elastic, sorry, through the rope casing. I keep saying elastic. Okay, so I'm just going to use my safety pin to ensure I pass this through. Now you want to um we have two casing for this. Okay, so you want to ensure you're doing this properly and ensure while you stitched this down you did it well so that you will not have any holes or any loopholes. So I've gone ahead to do that. You can see I've done for both of them. Okay, so I've pinned it down at the edge. We're going to go ahead to make our stitch there. Okay, you want to ensure you attach this to the main piece of the fabric. All right, so this is what we have. I've gone ahead to stitch it down. All right, so you can see we're already having that runch effect. Okay, after adjusting this up. Okay, so it can be adjusted whatsoever way you want it to be. So let's continue with this so we can join this to the back piece. Okay, so to join this to the back piece, I went ahead to fold this back again into two. Okay, I'm still working on my front piece, so I'm just going to take off the extra seam allowance I added. Remember, I added 1 inch for this. I'll just take my measurement and mark that extra, okay, the excess I have on this. Now remember, my round waist is 30 divided by 4. I have 7.5, so meaning I'm going to mark out 1 inch extra from this. So I'm marking the same thing, 1 inch from the waist point, 1 inch from the hip point, and then I'm extending the same line from the hip point straight to the full length of the skirt. I keep saying this, okay, and I'll keep saying it. Ensure you don't make your skirt pencil at the bottom, okay? If not, this entire thing will just be in vain because it's not going to be runched properly by the time you want this to go up. Okay, so I'm just connecting my lines properly, and after doing this I'm going to repeat the same measurement for the other end. All right, so ensure you're taking same measurement you have for your hip area, you're taking the same measurement for that. Now, sorry for my manners, okay? If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back to watch my videos, okay? And I really appreciate you coming back always to the channel to check up on it, okay? And ensure you turn on your notification bell to be notified on whenever I post a new video. And if you are a new subscriber, if you're seeing this video for the first time, please subscribe, okay? And don't leave without giving this video a thumbs up, all right? And leaving your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. So let's get right back into this, okay? So I've placed my back piece on this. I'll go over to the machine to join this on both sides, okay? So I've done that. This is what I have. The skirt is coming in gradually, okay? I also went ahead to hem the bottom of the skirt. It's coming in gradually. So I've gone ahead to cut out a band for this. My band measures about 3 inches in width, okay? And the length of this is the circumference of my waist plus my zip allowance, okay? So my waist is 30, so what I have here is 32. So I have 2 inches extra. So what I'll go ahead to do is to attach my band to the skirt and then fix my zipper. All right. So I've done that. Okay, we've actually come to the end of this tutorial. You can see this is what it looks like. It came out exactly as I wanted it to be. It looks all clean, looks all neat, and it looks very beautiful. Okay, you can see this is me wearing the final product of our skirt. It looks nice. Okay, so I didn't adjust this to the top. All right, so if you want to adjust yours to the top, it just depends on whatever you feel comfortable with. Okay, like I always say, do what makes you happy. Okay, you can decide to adjust this up, okay, take it all up, or decide to take it down, whatever you deem fit. Okay, so you can see I actually adjusted it a little bit upwards to show you a little bit of how it looks like. Okay, it looks beautiful. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Thank you. Bye.